navigate. Obviously, we have to navigate the political landscape on the island, and that's a key challenge that we have as an organization. How do we navigate the complex bureaucracy, the political dynamics to make sure that we have strengthened, municipal governments and we have local governance coverage across the island. Now, advocacy is one aspect of it. The other aspect is the strategy. You have to adopt certain strategy, that works in the interest of municipal governments, and that might include, adopting some interim measures while we are waiting for the reforms.
Welcome to Municipal Affairs. Today, we're bringing you a special one-on-one conversation with newly appointed Executive Director of the Federation of Prince Edward Islands Municipalities, Satya Sen. FPEIM recently announced earlier this year Sen's appointment, recognizing his proven leadership and deep knowledge of municipal issues in the province. Now, if his name sounds familiar, that's because he's already been a key figure behind the scenes, serving as the organization's policy and special projects advisor, where he began and is still instrumental in guiding municipalities through complex challenges. Now, with a background in law and island studies and a strong track record in research, advocacy, and government relations, Sen brings a well-rounded and strategic perspective to his new role. From land use and infrastructure to rural development and climate action, his vision is as comprehensive as it is timely. Now, he also continues to serve as the Secretary of Municipal Infrastructure Fund, supporting communities through lot subsidies that help make growth possible. Today, we will hear directly from Sen about his journey, his priorities as Executive Director, and his outlook for the future of Prince Edward Island municipalities. Stay with us. Across Canada, our cities, towns, villages, and rural communities are alive with stories waiting to be told. Stories of innovation and economic development, resilience in the face of the housing challenges, and the financial hurdles municipalities overcome every day. At the Cross Border Network, we bring these stories to life. From coast to coast to coast, we're connecting Canadians to the issues shaping our communities and showcasing the people working tirelessly to make them thrive. With your support, we can expand our reach, amplify more voices, and shine a light on the challenges and triumphs of municipal life. For as little as $3.99 a month, you can help us grow and continue sharing the stories that matter most. Join us today and be part of this important mission. Together, we can tell more stories, build stronger communities, and make a real difference. Support the Cross Border Network now. Visit www.crossborderinterviews.ca today. Sen, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about yourself and talking about your new-ish role, as you've just been relatively just appointed as the new Executive Director for the Federation of Prince Edward Island Municipalities. So before we get started, I've got to ask a simple question. What made you want to take on the role of Executive Director of the FPEIM?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Chris, and it's a real pleasure talking to you. To your question, I guess it was a natural progression for me. Having worked with my predecessor, my boss, John Dewey, for a number of years, I was hoping that I would, at some point of time, would take the leadership role with Federation. Uh, and it was really not just that, but also my love for municipal governments, local issues, public policy, and most importantly, trying to make a change in this province, which we really need at this moment.
Well, I'm assuming we're going to be getting into that little comment in a few minutes,
I'm
but
looking forward to that.
you kind of like me, you kind of love municipalities. What was it about the municipal draw that drew you into the municipal sector? Was it something in your background? Was mom and dad part of a municipal the arena, or are you the black sheep like myself and my family, and municipalities is where it's at?
Yeah, well, I'm actually the black sheep in the family. My whole family is into the field of law. My father has been practicing for over 40 years. My sister's a lawyer. My brother-in-law is a lawyer. I went to law school, but I really wasn't interested in taking up the family's profession and joining the chamber. I wanted to travel the world and work more internationally. So when I first moved to Canada, I was more interested in looking into a career in international public policy. Now, I happen to, as I mentioned earlier, I went to law school, but then I did a degree in island studies because I found that was interesting to, often in international relations or international public policy, we don't look into the small island jurisdiction. 25% of world population actually, world sovereign nations are small islands, and 10% of world population live on small islands, which is pretty interesting because that's a niche area, and I wanted to be a specialist rather than a generalist in that field. And when I first moved to PEI, when I was a student at the Institute of Island Studies at UPEI, I kind of got interested in the history, the geography, the culture, the politics of Prince Edward Island, and I think life is what happens to you when you're busy making plans. Here I was wanting to work internationally, perhaps with the United Nations or some other intergovernmental organizations. I ended up working locally, and all I can say is that I don't regret it at all. Like I enjoy every bit of it. I enjoy, every second of my job because I know this is where I'm making real changes because I'm working, with communities, for communities, and I'm working at a local level, a grassroots level where people can see and feel those changes that you push for.
What changes are you talking about? And I know we're going into a little bit of the weeds right now, but I think I need to because you talk about the changes and what changes have you seen in your time with the organization and what changes do you expect to see over the next few years? Because I've spoken to some of your members and it seems like there's a lot going on in the island, even though it is the smallest province in our confederation. It seems like there's a lot going on in Prince Edward Island right now. What changes do you see?
We are quite unique in that regard, Chris. PEI, as you rightly mentioned, is the smallest of Canadian provinces, and size is pretty much same size as Halifax Regional Municipality. But PEI has about 57 municipalities covering only 35% of its land area. So imagine having 57 municipalities within 35% of HRM. That's what we are talking about here. Um, my the biggest reform that Federation has been advocating for is the land and local governance reform, that we want to restructure municipal government systems and have municipal coverage from tip to tip. PEI is one of the most densely populated provinces, and yet we don't have 100% municipal coverage. So that to me is very important because you know the reform that we're looking for is first of all having municipal governments. The second thing is the decentralization of powers, and service delivery, because that's pretty unique in Canadian jurisdictions, where municipalities provide streets, policing, and recreation services, and fire and many other services that planning, for example, are provided at local level. But here on the island, a lot of these things are provided at provincial level. Waste management is a good example. Like, the province is responsible for waste management. Ambulance and services is with the province. Fire is sometimes they're municipal departments, sometimes they're regional, fire districts, and rural fire service companies. Same goes with the recreation too. Now, this absence of local governance structure or absence of municipal government is a big issue for it's the big reason why we have all the problems in PEI. We have issue of sprawl. We have been losing agricultural land for last several years. PEI used to be a million acre farmland province, and now we're down to 500,000 acre farmland province. And with this rate, we could lose another 250,000 farmland. So, we between 2016 and 2021, the census, we lost about, on an average, I believe, 36 to 39 acres a day on an average. That's a significant loss of farmland. And why? Because we don't have a system of land use planning. The province has been talking about, provincial land use plan for quite a few years now, you know, and the whole issue of land and local governance has been discussed since 1973, since the first Royal Commission report came. And since then, report after report have been asking for those reforms, and yet we don't have any reforms. So for me, advocating for something, something like this is important. I think it's a it's a change that is much needed on this island. The other thing is also, service delivery. We have, be it waters, utility, sewer utility, be it recreation service, be it fire services. The sense of building community is in some ways lacking in PEI, and primarily because of the lack of governance structure. And it's not because there is no intention to build communities. There is, this island is wonderful because there is a close sense of community, a sense of belonging. Whoever comes here, I wasn't born here, but for me, I'm very much part of the island community. I consider myself as an islander by choice, and but the sense of community can only be reinforced by having, local governance and local democracy. And for me, that piece is missing in PEI right now. And I think I'm hoping that, in my tenure as executive director, I would be able to achieve some of those changes in
So,
PEI.
so I'm gonna jump in because what role do you see FPIM playing to address those issues? Because sounds like from what you just said, and I'm taking you at your word, that this is not an issue that just propped up last week. This has been going on for about 60 years now, or 50, 60 years now, since the 70s. What role do you think FPIM and yourself as executive director and your board, led by President Bruce McDougall, play in making sure the province knows these are the concerns that are going on and we need them solved sooner rather than later? Because Prince Edward Island's growing. I hear all the time people are moving to Prince Edward Island. I hear people from Ontario down the street from me that I went to school with
Right,
just
right,
moved out to Prince Edward Island, actually to Summerside. And that's
right.
why I'm going to go visit them next week. So,
Yeah.
what role do you think the organization plays in making sure the advocacy and the policies get heard by provincial politicians in Charlottetown?
Right. Well, as you mentioned, the role is really to advocate for those meaningful changes and to strengthen municipal governments on the island. We have been advocating for it, and we will continue to advocate it. Obviously, we have to navigate the political landscape on the island, and that's a key challenge that we have as an organization. How do we navigate the complex bureaucracy, the political dynamics to make sure that we have strengthened municipal governments, and we have local governance coverage across the island. Now, advocacy is one aspect of it. The other aspect is the strategy. You have to adopt certain strategy, that works in the interest of municipal governments, and that might include, adopting some interim measures while we are waiting for the reforms. Now, one of the interim measures could be, can we have interim, like a shared services model for municipal governments? And this is much needed because, as I mentioned, we have small municipalities. Many of them, like over 40 municipalities, are like less than 5 square kilometers and 400 resident population. They don't even have a full-time CAO or staff to provide services to the residents.
Can
Now,
I
can
just
we
interject
provide?
here for a second here, Sen? Because
Yeah.
400 people, that's a huge population compared to other provinces like Saskatchewan, where there's a lot that only have 50 people. So 400 people, that's a metropolitan to some other provinces, but I understand where you're coming from.
No,
Sorry,
but
I just had to throw a little shade to John
well,
Mark Nadeau from
hey, yeah, no,
Saskatchewan there for a second.
that's great. But at the end of the day, that's not sustainable in long term because you don't have the resources or you don't have the capacity to exist as a local government. Now, often it is difficult to find people to run for local councils, to hire people who are professional CAOs. These municipalities do not have the resources to hire professional planners or professional staff. The province, we have a revenue sharing formula between the province and the municipalities. The federation played a key partner role in negotiating that. We do get tax credit from the province for the services we provide. But the province takes a larger portion of the property tax, and as you know, property tax is traditionally the only source of revenue for municipalities across this country, coast to coast to coast. In PEI, the province takes the largest share of the property tax. So municipalities are left with, very little money and sometimes no tax through because, the provincial property tax is $1.50. Property owners get for $100 assessed value. Now they do get the 50 cents back as a rebate, but still a dollar is much higher than the municipal property tax, right? So municipalities do not have the room to increase their taxes in many, because otherwise, uh, you're putting burden on the residents for the services, which frankly speaking, a lot of people in unincorporated areas do access those services without paying any municipal taxes into it. When it's so in unincorporated areas, unlike you see before the reforms in New Brunswick, they used to have local service districts, but they were paying local taxes there. In PEI, if you're from unincorporated area, you don't pay any taxes other than the provincial property tax. So there is real issue on, municipal finances, which needs to be fixed. Obviously, as you mentioned, people moving to PEI from Ontario and other provinces in the West, uh, they have expectations on the level of services or, a quality of life. And frankly speaking, none of these municipalities, smaller ones especially, would be able to provide that quality of life without having the resources and the services which they should be providing.
I have to ask a political question to follow up there because
Okay.
there's something that you said that I just need to clarify for myself. Are you hopeful that because the unincorporated areas of Prince Edward Island is expansive, there are people who are not technically part of a municipality. Is it the vision of FPEIM to have all of the island of Prince Edward Island under some sort of municipality, whether it be a municipal district, whether it be a city, a town, a village, a hamlet? Is that the ultimate goal? Is to see every Prince Edward Islander represented by a municipality and not have these unincorporated areas anymore?
Absolutely. And this is not political. This is a long-standing policy of the Federation, and this is exactly, it's no secret. This is what we have been advocating for. We want full incorporation of Prince Edward Island from tip to tip. Now, we may debate on how many municipalities should be there, and that really depends on various factors, the social factor, the cultural factor, the economic factor, the political factor, the environmental factor. Sometimes certain communities go well with one community, but not so much with a neighboring, a different community. It really depends on how you can provide those services, whether they exist as a community of interest or not. Now, we have to do some feasibility study. We have to really look into the fine details before we can come back and say, okay, we need about, let's say, 12 municipalities in PEI or 18 municipalities in PA, whatever that number may be. And and for me, to be able to reach to that point where the provincial government is ready to enforce those changes and say like, no, we need local service delivery, we need efficient local governance structures in PEI would be a win. And so far, we have not been successful in the terms that there is lack of political will, and we have not been able to change you know that will to enforce those changes. I don't like the word forced amalgamation because in PEI we're really not talking about amalgamation the way we talk in other jurisdictions. It's not
Yep.
about two municipalities coming together. We're really talking about a local governance reform, or you can call it restructuring of local government system in PEI. Now, for me to achieve that, we have to continue with the dialogue and discussion, keep this issue alive. But moving forward, there needs to be a comprehensive, planning of how to restructure Prince Edward Island and how to make sure islanders receive all the services they need to have a great quality of life and to have a great community they can be proud of.
Your leadership is going to be paramount during the next few months, next few years, then. Your background in law and island studies, and even in your previous roles as policy and special projects advisor, how does that prepare you to lead FPIM into this kind of uncharted territory of trying to actually get something done? And I say that respectfully to the province, but municipalities need something to be done today, not 5 years from now. They need it done today. And
Yeah,
usually the running joke in any municipal organization I hear is province will take about 6 to 8 months. The federal government will take about 5 to 10 years to get something. Municipalities take about a week to get things done. So
yeah,
you have to wait for other
exactly.
levels to come to the table. What in your background and your previous roles with the organization makes you believe that you are the one to get it done, or are you?
I, I'm not sure if I am the one to get it done, but I would love to be, at the forefront of when those changes are about to happen. Obviously, my job as an executive director of this organization is to make sure that we achieve our goals. But um, for me, it's really not my background. It's the passion for the reforms, which is the driving force. My background is, yes, it is helpful to have a background in law and public policy and island studies because I studied sustainable island communities, island public policy and international relations as part of my master's program. But the fact is, it's really how committed you are to this job and how committed you are to the reforms, whether you truly believe in this reform or not. If I can't advocate for something I don't believe in, Chris, and for me to advocate for the macro reforms, be it on local governance or land use or municipal finances or strengthening the legislations and the regulations around it, would require me to be passionate about it and that passion drives me every day when I do come to this office and do my job. And for me, being along with being passionate, I also have to be very strategic, very calm, and most importantly, have the perseverance because in this job you can get disheartened very quickly. And I know my boss, my predecessor, my ex-boss, who was worked 25 years of his life, gave 25 of his years of his life to this organization, and he brought Federation from one point uh, to another point, the current situation, and it wasn't for him, we would not be what we are today. And my job would be to take Federation to another level. I'm not sure if I would be successful in my efforts or not, but if I could bring some meaningful changes to the organization and our support for municipal governments, I would say my tenure as executive director would be successful.
So,
You
what are
know.
those priorities that you have in place? Because we all have internal metrics that we want to accomplish. Me with the show, there's things that I always want to try and surpass. I know we're in the early days of the Sen era of the FPEIM, but we are in it now. We are officially in it. So, what are the priorities for the role and for the organization that you have internally laid out? And I know I'm kind of asking like to put everything on the table here. You don't have to if you don't want to, but is there things that you want to see the organization grow into, or is there things that you want to see the sort of staff at the organization grow into and sort of the outreach grow into? What do you see as the vision for the organization under you?
That's a good question. And you know what? Before I was appointed. I was interim for a couple of months, and I remember before I was appointed interim, and when John Dewey was here, I told him like if I were to succeed you, I want a clear vision of how to take this organization forward. And for me, there are three key themes here. One is advocacy, which is our primary mandate. So I want to push for the land and local governance reforms. I want to see land use planning being in place. I want to see a strong municipal legislations and regulations, good governance practices in place. I want to see, a good funding framework, between municipalities and the provincial government. So that's the advocacy side. Now, on the organizational side, I want to strengthen the organization, its decision making, And one of the ways I can do it is through looking at how the organization has been functioning for past several years and how it needs to function in next decade or so in order to achieve those advocacy priorities. Now, one of the things that I want to do is to look at the long-term vision of the organization, get a fresh mandate from the board and the membership, maybe go for a strategic plan, for the organization, see whether we would be financially viable in next couple of years or not, what kind of projects we need to do. And then the third theme is the enterprise side of the things that we need to provide services to our members. For example, we have a benefits program, which we offer in partnership with Canoe, RMA Rural Municipalities of Alberta. We have a procurement program, same with Canoe, and we are launching insurance program for our members very soon in partnership with Canoe again. Uh, Next one would be a shared services in finance would be my big focus where I could offer financial services to my members. A shared services in land use and climate change would be another service that I would love to offer my members, so that we can offer, as I mentioned earlier, most of them do not have the capacity. So if we can create a center where I can hire professional planners and development officers to provide those services, timely services that municipalities require, that would be a huge benefit to my members. Again, helping municipalities develop climate action plans, providing mitigation services, adaptation services, all those things would be exceptionally important in years to come. On top
Just
of
to,
that,
just to
yeah.
interject on that part for a second, if you don't mind, because I want to get this question in because this is important to follow up on what you just said. Does the organization and do you as executive director approach different municipalities in different way? Because when I talk to rural municipal leaders from across Canada, there's always that rural lens that you have to put yourself into. When you talk to urban municipalities, you have to put that urban perspective on. From your perspective, is a municipality no matter if they're rural or urban, or does the organization look, okay, you're more of an agricultural based or municipality, so we're going to look at you as a rural municipality? How do you see your role in your organization, making sure members feel like they're heard, whether they are that rural or that urban, or for you, unidentified or unincorporated municipality as well?
Well, first of all, unincorporated, there is no municipality. But for me, the rural-urban divide, although it exists, but it's not as prominent as other jurisdictions. Mind you,
Okay.
we're a small island, jurisdiction. There is no hinterland. We are surrounded by the sea. So in many ways, we're just one community, right? We have shared resources, shared values, and shared identity as islanders. Now, when it comes to rural urban, obviously there are issues that city of Charlottetown or Summerside would face that a rural municipality in Eastern Kings or West Prince would not face. So I have to balance the perspective here. And frankly, I'm very you know uh, you know lucky in that matter that I don't have that, strong rural urban conflict in this province. But the needs are very different for sure. Even, for example, when Charlottetown, as being the capital and the largest city, urban settlement on PEI, can afford to have professional planners, a small municipality in Kings County or Prince County would not have that capabilities, right? So obviously, the service I am going to provide would very much depend on who wants that service. It will be a fee for service model. It won't be, but it would be open to all my members. If Charlottetown tomorrow or Summerside wants, listen, I think you have the capacity and you have professional planners that can help us, redraft our official plan or land use bylaw. Why not? If we can provide services, or can help them with the new climate plans or adaptation plan or some come and go with the mitigation strategy, why not? Same goes with project management. The financial centers can also help them. Like, for example, yes, the small municipalities are struggling with bookkeeping, but the larger ones probably need an audit service. So can I provide that kind of service to my members? Absolutely. Am I going to take away business from private sector? I might be. But at the end of the day, I am a GLS municipal advocate. I represent public sector, municipal governments, and my interest is in the interest of municipal governments. I don't represent private sector. I don't want to compete with them. I want to, just complement, a service that we can specialize in. As you're aware, in other jurisdiction, large centers, especially in provinces like Alberta and, British Columbia, Manitoba, Ontario, people specialize in municipal finances. We don't have the liberty to specialize it, but can Federation provide a specialized, center? I see we can. The way I see it, we can absolutely provide that kind of services.
But there's also a chance to, and this is going a little bit off topic, which we're going to talk about a little bit more at AMC, but there's also a chance for your organization to work with your fellow provincial organizations in Atlantic Canada, because I'm assuming the issues that are going on, whether it be staff shortages or even lack of support systems for financials or CAOs, is the same in New Brunswick, in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, and there's a way that you can all work together to sort of make things cheaper for municipalities at the end of the day. Is there not?
Absolutely.
Or do you find yourself sort of, and I use this coin a little bit loosely here, but do you kind of feel like you're an island upon yourself a little bit?
Uh, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that yes, we have our unique needs. Even within the region, Atlantic region, PEI is unique, and so is New Brunswick, so is Nova Scotia, so is Newfoundland. Our challenges are unique, our needs are unique, but we do exist as a region. We do exist we can exist as one voice in the national public policy debates. And this is where we need to collaborate. We need to collaborate on, okay, what do we need? How do we exist as a region? What do we need, in order for us to thrive as a region? And that might require, collaboration on federal advocacy. That might require us to provide an Atlantic lens to FCM, national priorities. Um, the other thing would be collaboration between the PTAs. For example, can we work on a single research project together? That affects all of us. Can we share knowledge and mobilize staff between us so that we can help each other? Kind of be up to the standard. Can we support each other through uh, for example, can we support each other through service delivery? Maybe there is, for example, pension fund. We don't have a pension fund program for municipalities in PEI, right? There is no, unlike other jurisdiction where there is
Yeah.
a local government pension fund, and in Ontario has one, all the jurisdiction would have one. Can we collaborate in Atlantic wide to have the economies of scale to have a pension program for municipal staff? That's one area. Maybe in human resources, another area. So human resources would be another service that I would love to have with Federation. Um, Information technology, use of AI. So, project management, a lot of things that we can collaborate and offer those services to our members. And, sometimes this, expertise, let's say, you know, that center or that's, like if we can help municipality in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, the same thing can be done in PEI and Newfoundland. And just giving you an example.
No,
Um,
but I'm cautious of time here because I just looked at the clock and we're
yeah.
at 30 minutes right now, and I want to turn to one last area before I turn to the future and what the next few months are going to look like under your leadership. You and I, we recently just met in person at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities convention. Now, I know before the convention kicked off, you met with your fellow PTA organization CEOs, executive directors, however they're addressed, and Carol Saab, the CEO of FCM, in, I think it was Gatineau a few days prior to the convention, or even if it was the day before the convention. The issues that you're talking about here seem very unique, but also very similar to what I'm hearing across Canada. But I want to talk about the uniqueness that is Prince Edward Island for a second. Is there particular policy areas that you believe require the most urgent attention from a municipal context in the province today, whether that be from a municipal standpoint or a provincial standpoint? Or is it like you said at the beginning of the interview, is it that unincorporated areas needing to be addressed from a provincial area? What do you see as the biggest areas that need to be focused on right now?
From a provincial point of view, yes, that would be the big one. That would be the big issue. But I think infrastructure investment would be my biggest priority as well when it comes to federal-provincial relationship and federal-provincial and municipal relationship. A lot of infrastructure are outdated. Projects are not managed properly in smaller communities, and that requires, expertise, and that requires, more money on the table. And, I would be happy if they doubled the gas tax fund, sorry, the Canada Community Building Fund. Uh, but we all know that we need more money on infrastructure. We need to take care of homelessness. We need to take care of housing priorities. We need to make sure that, islanders and Canadians are well served with, in the difficult times when we are facing challenges from the southern neighbor. We need to build a resilient economy, and municipalities are going to be key partners with the provincial and the federal government to make sure that we have a resilient economy in place, and we benefit all Canadians in this case. So infrastructure-led growth would be one of our big priorities for sure.
Is climate change a big issue right now in Prince
Yes,
Edward Island?
absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. We live in a jurisdiction which is surrounded by water. We know the threat of climate change and, unprecedented natural disaster. We faced, Hurricane Fiona that almost, devastated the economy. It had a lasting impact on people. I'm sure there were a lot of mental health issues related to Fiona as well. So we obviously have to look into, how do we become more resilient in the near future? And for
And does
me,
that
climate
include
action.
coastal erosion as well?
It would, yes, absolutely. The province is currently working on a shoreline management plan. We don't have a coastal zone management legislation in this province, and that might be something we have to look into. But as I said, lack of planning. Planning only covers 20% of PEI's land area. So how do we integrate coastal management and, climate actions into municipal planning? That would be an important topic in years to come.
Um, as we are heading into the future of the Sen era, as I so colloquially called it there a few minutes ago, what do you see FPIM in? Where do you see the organization in a year's time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? Or do you see yourself trying to adapt to the organization and not trying to get the organization to adapt to your leadership?
Well, I would love to see Federation, at least in 1 year, to have some increased staff capacity. I would like to see, some of those services that I talked about being in place, if not all, at least, one or two projects that we can move forward with. 5 years would be really if I can establish Federation as one of the most important political institution. That would be a big success for me. Just to have a rightful place in, yes, we are creation of the province. Municipalities, often not considered as an order of government, but nonetheless, we are a political institution in our own right, right? We have that, we are public bodies, and as a union, as a federation of municipalities, I want to make sure the federation is respected and, has its place in the provincial municipal affairs and has a firm place in shaping public policy in PEI across Atlantic region and perhaps the federal government, in Canada. Um, 10 years, I would really love to see all those reforms that I talked to you about being pushed through and, it's adopted and we have, well-structured municipal governments with all the capacity they need to serve islanders and to serve Canadians. That would be a big success. So I'm hoping small steps can, and then at one point of time we may take a quantum leap.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. And maybe in 10 years' time, I'll be still doing the show and you'll still be in that role and we can have a follow-up conversation.
Absolutely. And I hope that time, I'll come back and say like, well, Chris, finally we achieved what we were hoping for.
So before I let you go, I have one final question. I think it's probably the most important question I probably will have asked during this entire interview, and it's not one that I prepared you for. You are one person. You are leading this organization, but this organization is not just you. It is many people who surround you, who work with you, the board of directors. You are now instrumental in working with them to ensure that they are successful as well as you are being successful for your
Absolutely.
members. What do you see as your role to ensure that you foster that camaraderie between yourself and your staff to ensure that everyone works towards the common goal of making sure municipalities are at the forefront of Prince Edward Island's provincial, federal, everyday issues? Because you can't do it alone. You need a team, and you have a team right now.
I have a fantastic team with me. All my staff, it's really, it's not what I bring to the table, it's what we collectively bring to the table. And, Julie, my executive assistant and office manager, she has been here for last 30 years. I have a fantastic team of communications, but, and, on programs and policy. We're a small team and we're like a family. We help each other. Sometimes it's all hands on the deck, but everyone is excellent at the jobs they do, and I am extremely proud of my team. And moving forward, we will increase the capacity internally. We would add more staff, and we will build a team here. And I would always, I would always put the interest of the organization before individual interest. And for me, that includes, the board, that includes my membership, that includes each and every staff, and that includes the residents and the islanders that we represent.
Sen, Satya, I want to thank you so much for the bottom of my heart for sitting down with me. I know you're a busy man with this new position and everything that's going on in Prince Edward Island, it sounds like. So I truly appreciate your time, your energy, and your willingness to come on and chat about what's going on and your new role. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I look forward to meeting you once again in Prince Edward Island in October, but also in St. John's, literally the day this airs. So see you in St. John's after this airs.
Thank you so much, Chris, and it's a pleasure speaking to you, and I hope to see you next week.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Now, if you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights into the world of Prince Edward Island municipal affairs, please hit that subscribe button now if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, or if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, to stay in the loop with all of our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite social media channels or by visiting us online at crossborderinterviews.ca. Now, your support means the world to us, so share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Until next week, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll be back with a brand new episode of Municipal Affairs shortly. Till then, everyone.